everyone. Welcome to Justice Losers, the most unqualified podcast exploring irrelevant questions about entertainment, namely movies, TVs, and comics. I'm your host, Preston, joined as always by my delightful co-host.
Do you know who I am?
Bat-Matt.
That's me.
That's you.
Bat-Matt, the battiest of Matts.
Matt, what should people do?
Like, subscribe, and tell a friend, and check out remproductions.net.
.net?
.net.
What are we talking about, Matt?
Ratings.
G, PG, PG-13, R, MA-17, X.
How do you rate a movie? How do you distill a movie's essence into a single number, or a thumb, or a star?
Or a
Should
tomato.
Or a tomato. Should you distill a movie's essence into a thumb or a star or a tomato?
Now that's an interesting question.
That's an interesting question. Let's start let's take a big picture step back here.
Okay.
Why would you want to rate a movie in the first place?
I think, and I feel like this is probably what you're heading towards, that the purpose of rating is purely to tell people whether or not they should go watch it.
Okay. So it's like a civic responsibility kind of thing?
I think it's applying a scale so that readers or consumers of your rating can have their own thresholds. So for example, if someone who's writing a review says a movie is a 7, some people who think that is worth watching will go watch it, while other people say, oh, I'm only going to go see a movie if this person's rated at a 9 or a 10. And the reason that you quantify it rather than say you should go watch it is because you allow, as I said, the influenced person to set their own threshold.
Yeah, no, originally this was just very much, okay, reviews are long and boring. Millennials don't have the attention span. Let's slap a number on it.
Yeah.
Except the first Star review came out in 1928. I'm with you. I think it's a great way of, if you want to distill your opinions down to a headline, it's really effective to do it numerically, to quantify it. So how should we rate movies? If we accept that we're going to rate them, how should we do it? What sort of scale should we use? Should we factor in just critics' opinions? Should we sample the popular vote? If we want to get closest to a movie's objective quality, how do we do it?
The thing I'm struggling with right now is the divergence between critics and casual moviegoers. I have always enjoyed being able to determine what a movie's going to be like based on seeing the IMDb score, the Metacritic score, and the Rotten Tomatoes score, because those three are very clearly, like, those have the three basically stages. I have almost always landed within 1 star of the IMDb score because it is people similar to me where they have a little bit of an interest in critically watching, but it's for the most part casual.
Yeah.
I have deviated several times from Metacritic, and also deviated many times from Rotten Tomatoes.
Well, this is kind of the holy trinity of modern movie rating systems. Right. Let's break them down. I have some really fun little tidbits about all of them.
All right, let's break them down then.
And also some boring ones. So IMDb, it's the 1 to 10 scale. It's the scale we use. It allows, I like it because it allows a certain level of granularity. We have breakdowns of what each star rating means.
Yep.
The way a movie gets its IMDb rating is people log into the site and they say, I've seen this movie. I give it 7 stars out of 10. And then it just aggregates all of them. Now, it doesn't take a raw average. It weights them a little bit depending on how many movies the person's seen.
Okay.
And it will do adjustments if it detects suspicious ratings or what the system thinks are suspicious ratings.
Oh, so like rating bombing.
Yeah.
Or review bombing.
Review bombing. If it thinks that there's a lot of people giving this movie too much credit, it'll bump that rating down. If it thinks it's giving it too little credit, it'll bump it back up. It seems reasonable. It seems like something where they're not abusing their power. They're taking pretty close to the actual mean and showing something reasonable that'll pop
and that's
up.
Something that I can sound so elitist on that I think that people who experience more can have a better opinion.
Mm-hmm.
That's in general rating a movie where, like, if you've watched 3 movies,
Mm-hmm.
you have a very low sample size of being able to determine what's good or not.
Mm-hmm.
If you watched Hellboy, 2004 Catwoman, and Fanforstic, you'd think Fanforstic is a fantastic movie because you're comparing it to 2 god-awful movies. And so IMDb kind of weighting it to people who have seen more.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like all for it.
Yeah. And again, it's not a significant
You're
difference on average from just the raw mean of the data. Yeah, it's a pretty good populist, just this is the movies that people like. They have their top 250, and that's usually a good starting place for people that want to get into high quality cinema. There's a lot of gateway drug kind of movies in there where it's like everyone likes these, they're really good, and they can kind of lead you down some rabbit holes.
Right.
Metacritic uses a 1 to 100 point scale. So, I mean, it's effectively IMDb. They just took out the decimal place because critics are elitist snobs who think they're 10 times better than everyone. And so what they'll do is they'll take like a 1 to 10 scale and just multiply by 10 to adjust into their 100 point scale. They'll do a 4-star rating and they'll divide by 8. And so it's like 100, 88, 75, counts down like that. They'll take letter grades, which is another one that sometimes gets used, and break it down by, I guess, 12ths. Yeah. Because you get plus and minus and stuff for each letter grade.
Yep.
Just delineate it straight down. But they also take movie reviews that don't quantify their result at all. And they have some of that editorial staff just kind of slap a number on it.
Sketchy.
Kind of sketchy. Now, they claim on their FAQ that they have people who do this a lot and generally have a very good sense. And if you're the reviewer and you see that Metacritic said that the movie was a 70 and you're like, nah, it was more of a 50, you can call in and they'll be like, oh, okay, we'll change that. So it does feel a little more like, okay, these are the serious movies that you ought to consider if you're going to think about movies from an enlightened and intellectual perspective. I don't know what this voice is.
I kind of dig it, though.
I feel like when I watch a movie, I mostly ignore Rotten Tomatoes. If I'm trying to decide ahead of time if I want to watch a movie, I'll look at IMDb and Metacritic. And I don't know how much... I feel like I tend to agree more with Metacritic than with the IMDb rating because I'm an elitist culture snob who is out of touch with the common man.
Yep.
But I always wonder if IMDb is how I should feel and Metacritic is how I think I should feel about a movie.
Yeah.
I don't know how much of that subconscious there is playing around down there. I don't know how much I take those critic opinions as gospel.
Right.
And that's a potential downside with ratings is you can color people's opinions before they've had a chance to crystallize.
Yeah. It's definitely risky to look at ratings.
Yeah. Not always, but I've kind of gotten into the habit of trying to watch a movie before I rate it. The first one I can remember doing that with was Sicario 2. Sicario Soldado. Maybe that movie changed titles like 4 times in the middle of production. But I didn't read any reviews. I didn't even look at headlines of reviews. I did not check the IMDb or the Metacritic before I saw it, and I went and saw it, and I formed my own opinions, and then I checked it against the critics, and I was like, okay, yeah, I kind of agree with everything.
Yeah.
So I generally trust my own ability to form an opinion, but there's always that little voice in the back of my head. How much of you is original?
Yeah.
Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah, that's a thing.
We don't like Rotten Tomatoes here on Just Us Losers.
It's a dumb system.
Yeah. So, for those unfamiliar, what Rotten Tomatoes does is it takes reviews, like roughly the same criteria as Metacritic. They've got to be reasonably respectable. And it categorizes them as positive or negative, and then calculates the famous tomato meter rating by just taking the percentage of movies with a positive rating.
Yep.
So, Preston, what problems does this cause?
Let's say every single person in the world thinks a movie's about like a 70 to a 75. Like, it's a pretty decent movie.
Mm-hmm.
Suddenly, Rotten Tomatoes thinks it is a perfect movie because that's 100%.
Mm-hmm.
Or if everybody thinks the worst case
Right.
is that if everyone thinks it's a pretty good movie and just kind of is like a 70 to a 65, suddenly that's a 0% on Rotten Tomatoes and it's the worst movie ever made.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God, it's god awful. It's not. Okay, so we say we're an unqualified podcast because we're talking about an entertainment which we are outside consumers of and have our opinions on. I have a degree that is so it's heavenly, so heavily based in statistics, and my elective focus was data analytics. I am qualified to say that is horseshit.
Thank you, Preston.
Gotcha.
Another problem, and this is kind of along the Metacritic's line, is what if they get a mixed review and it's not a quantified one? How do you determine whether a 2.5-star review is generally positive or generally negative?
Yeah.
Is it black with white stripes or white with black stripes? It promotes safe movies generally.
Yeah.
Is part of the problem. It's just the unequivocally, yeah, this is pretty good.
Black Widow.
Yeah, Black Widow's unequivocally, yeah, it's pretty good.
Yeah.
Free Guy that just came out with Ryan Reynolds. Haven't seen it. Certified fresh.
Yeah.
Which criteria for certified fresh? It must be above 75%. It must have a certain number of critics. Those critics have to meet a certain number of criteria, and it has to stay like stably above that 75% number.
Gotcha.
And then they slap a little certified fresh logo on it, and that has been aggressively commercialized.
Yep.
There are reasons to have issues with stuff like Metacritic and Rotten Tomatoes, and even IMDb has some problems. Something like 80 to 90% of IMDb ratings are men.
Huh. We got us all neckbeards.
Yeah, we're just more excited about movies and pop culture on average.
Yeah.
Not to make a statistical generalization about any particular individuals or anything.
Right.
But yeah, on average, you think of your average person that's going to rate a movie on IMDb, it's going to be someone like us.
Yeah.
It's going to be a dude. And so you get some biases from that.
I feel like that's also an episode topic.
There's some interesting stuff in there. So the example that a lot of people bring up when talking about this is the Sex and the City movie. Men rate it on average like a mid-5s, like a 5.7 or something, and women rate it like an 8.4. This is going to be a little less in-depth, but I wanted to talk a little bit about streaming sites and ratings on that. And specifically, kind of when I was thinking about what I was going to talk about with this episode, the first question that popped into my head is, remember Netflix? It used to be 5 stars.
It did.
Yeah.
But now it's a thumbs up, thumbs down.
Now it's a thumbs up, thumbs down. What changed? Why did it change? They've come out and said why it changed, but speculate for me.
I'm speculating. It is easier to build a model for recommendations for people based on binary results than it is based on scaled results. If 7,000 people rated a movie between 4 and 5 stars, and you rated that movie between like at 4 stars, there's a little bit of a fuzziness of that. But if 7,000 people rated a movie thumbs up and you also rated that movie thumbs up, you are in that category. And it gives it's a lot easier to build a model on binary values.
That's a big part of it.
That's it. That's all I got.
Okay. Yeah, I that's a big part of it.
Also, it's easier for someone it's less intimidating for somebody to give a binary result.
Yeah. And like people like you and me that watch a lot of movies have very well-defined scales, and we've thought out which movies go where. But a lot of people don't necessarily. A lot of people, a 7-star movie is going to mean something completely different for different people. The average rating of all movies on IMDb fluctuates a little bit, but it generally hovers about 7.0. Sometimes a little under. And it's not because most movies are mediocre. It's because people have flexible rating scales, and they're gonna, I mean, partly you get some bias because people are gonna incline to watch movies that they are going to want to watch. But a lot of that's just gonna come down to people's scales operate differently.
Yeah.
They're not necessarily going to put a 5 right in the middle. They're not necessarily going to say reserve 10 only for transcendent movies. Yeah, no, Netflix, they switched to the thumbs partly because it is less intimidating. Yep. They saw a 200% increase in the number of ratings when they switched. And it's more effective. Did you know that when they had the 4-star system, the stars that popped up was what they expected you would rate it?
Yes, I did know that.
A lot of people did not.
Amazon Prime does that too.
Mm-hmm.
Their stars that you see on it are what they expect you will like.
Mm-hmm.
And so you want to look for like 5-star stuff because it's what you're more likely going to like.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of like that.
Yeah.
I want them to show both.
Yeah.
Like your expected rating and average rating.
Right.
Even though that will totally be like, we think you're going to love this. Most people think it's a 2, but we don't judge.
Yeah. Leads to some awkward moments there.
Yep.
Yeah. But a lot of people didn't realize that, didn't think about it. And it was just kind of confusing for people.
Yeah.
So they made that switch and it makes a lot of sense. But it also, you lose a lot of that precision. And so for the people who are more in touch with this sort of thing and have their more defined scales, for me, it feels a little weird to pick some of those marginal movies and be like, yeah, I guess I'm more okay with this than I am not.
Yeah.
And this isn't a problem for you or I, but there's a lot of people that are interested enough to watch a fair amount of content, but not so involved that they're going to have a 3,000 movie long IMDb watch list.
Right.
That will very deliberately choose their likes and dislikes, not necessarily out of what they like and dislike, but to cultivate their algorithm to get recommendations they're going to like.
Yeah.
There's a whole bunch of people out there that's their experience using Netflix or Hulu, which has also gone to the thumbs up, thumbs down model.
Yeah.
It's a really fascinating thing that I don't think could have been predicted even 10 years ago, that people would interact with technology like that.
Yeah.
But just,
I do it on Spotify all the time because they'll build my daily mix and it'll be like a little bit too much into one genre. And I'm like, no. And I'll like go listen to one band like a lot just so that it'll
force it back in the direction. Yeah. That's really fascinating because I don't have that experience at all. I am like, I know how to seek out what I want without some algorithm foisting content on me. And I don't mean to sound so aggressive about it, but like, I trust myself. I know how to find movies I want to watch. I know how to find music I want to listen to.
Right.
And it's fascinating to me that there's these recommendations and you can kind of play off them to get those good recommendations. It's send us an email, justuslosers.pod@gmail.com. If this is something that you think about, if you think about cultivating your Netflix algorithm, like, I'm intrigued. What is that experience like?
Yeah.
And I don't mean this in a condescending way. It's a completely different way of thinking about it. That's probably all I got. Thesis?
I
got one.
Go for it. I want to hear what yours is.
It's hard to rate movies, yo.
Yeah, I was going to say, diluting art down to a single quantifiable value loses the breadth of connection someone can have with the art.
Yep. It's not nuanced. And any rating system is going to be flawed. Right. In one direction or another.
Yep. 'Cause people are stupid.
Yep. Either as an average as a group, or as an elitist bunch of intellectuals, or as a algorithm that was written by an algorithm that was written by an algorithm that was written by a human.
Yep. People are stupid. Nothing's going to work. Shallst we?
We shallst.
Hey guys, Preston here. Due to the YouTube algorithm, we can only put about 15 to 20 minutes on video. So if you want to listen to the rest of this discussion, you can go listen to our audio-only version on Spotify, SoundCloud, iTunes, and any other app you might listen to podcasts on. Thanks for watching.